Namaste and welcome back to Waking Up with Mindful Serenity Yoga, and I'm Nancy. I'm going to continue answering questions from the jar, but I'm going to go back to a question that I answered yesterday. I wasn't in the right frame of mind to answer that question, and though I still have it up because I told myself there would be no editing, no revising, whatever I say is going to go up. I decided that I would like a redo. I was watching YouTube yesterday before I went to bed, and lo and behold, my video came up, and I was like, how did that get up there? And it was like watching something that made my shamer ego cringe a bit, and my redeemer ego say, what are you going to do to fix this, crazy lady? So I put the video in private. It's still there, and I'm still responsible for it, and I still want it up because I don't want ego being involved in this process of assimilating my learning that I'm doing by doing these videos. So it is still up there, but I would like a redo because I don't want anyone to be confused by what I had to say, because I think it was a very important question. And what was the question that I answered yesterday, or began to answer yesterday, not so perfectly? The question was, how can you say that my problems are statistically insignificant? So I'm going to attempt that answer again. I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to exhale. Statistically insignificant is a statistical term, and believe you me, that term did not come from me. Statistics is one of my most challenging courses in university, and if it wasn't for my dear friend Cheryl, I would never have gotten through and probably never graduated with my undergraduate. That being said, I heard statistically insignificant that problems were such, or that life that we, with what we experience is such, by Michael Singer, who I will put the link below to a wonderful podcast. He offers wonderful podcasts through the Temple of the Universe and Sounds True quite often throughout the week, and I think it's something worthy of checking into. So I will put the link to his video below. So statistically insignificant, and what did he mean by that? What do I mean by that when I look at a person and say your problems are statistically insignificant? I by no means want to offend or say that you are insignificant, because you are definitely not. You are this magnificent being, this light, this human magical tool that's being used by life to express itself through. So you are not insignificant, and you are not your problems. So just because I say your problems are statistically insignificant doesn't mean that you are. So please understand that you are magnificent. Your problems, on the other hand, we can do without them. So when I say your problems, if I do say that, are statistically insignificant, I'm also saying my problems basically are statistically insignificant, and everyone in my household's problems are statistically insignificant, and my neighbor's problems are statistically insignificant, and the person standing on the top of the Himalayan mountains' problems are insignificant. So just understand that it's not you or your problems that are insignificant. It is problems in general are statistically insignificant. And you'll hear Michael Singer using that term quite a bit. How are my problems statistically insignificant, crazy lady? Well, let's look at why your version and your perspective of life might be statistically insignificant. Let's begin by looking at the fact that you, this salty, watery being, 70% salt water in you, are a speck of dust despite this water within you. And the speck of dust with a bit of salt water content that you are just happens to breathe, happens to think, happens to feel, happens to perceive, happens to act. And this tiny little speck of saltwatery being that you are is on another bigger grain of salt that we call Earth, which is also, salt watery. Floating around one galaxy, you're just on one planet. This grain of salt that you're on is just one planet among many, spinning around a sun that I think is 93 million miles away from you. That can house 1.3 million of these grains of salt that you call Earth. And this sun, or this star, because it's just a star of many, is in one galaxy, a magnificent, mighty, and grand galaxy among trillions of galaxies. So, that makes you pretty tiny, doesn't it? It makes you pretty tiny. And of all the things you get to experience in life, or all the things there are to experience in life, I should say, you get to experience this one tiny little slice, a tiny little piece of life, because of the geographical area where you're at, because of your circumstances, because of who you are born into, etc., etc. You get one tiny little slice of life. And that slice of life is a magnificent slice of life. There's so many things going on around it. There's a variety of color and noises and other things the sense perceptions pick up. It is amazing. But what we do, and so it's quite large for this tiny grain of salt that we are, this salt watery being that we are. This slice, though it is small in comparison to the trillions and trillions of galaxies out there, it is still quite expansive as far as the size that we are. It's amazing, really. And we get to experience it. But we are, as is the person next to you, as are all beings, a part of this magnificent energy that makes the trillions of galaxies, makes this universal mass that we are a tiny, tiny part of. We are that energy. We are that consciousness and that awareness. And we take that consciousness and awareness, and instead of exploring this wonderful slice of life that we're given, we break it down. We take this nice wide angle lens of consciousness that we have the ability to use, and we narrow it down, 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 zooming right in at the macro level and seeing only what's in front of us, to the point that it's all we see, all we focus on, and we come to believe it is who we are. My children, when they were small, I photographed for a long time. And my children would often take my camera, wanting to experiment with it and try it out. And they would take my zoom lens, and they would start it with the wide angle of it, and they would look at something. They would zoom in and zoom in and zoom in and zoom in until they were looking at, believe it or not, the thing they loved to photograph the most was poop. Dog poop, horse poop, whatever. And so they brought it right into the grossest type of what I consider, it's not gross, it's just nature, but you know how we tend to get repulsed by that as human beings. So they zoom right into that, creating a macro shot of that. And it was, I compare that to what we tend to do with the crap going on in our own lives, with our problems. We zoom right into them, and that's all we can see. We build them up and blow them up, so you're seeing it at the most intensest of levels, and there's no escaping it. It's right in your face. And that's what we tend to do with these problems, these statistically insignificant problems. We make them everything. We zoom right in and keep our focus on them. So they're all we're seeing. They're all we're experiencing. And so we come to believe they are a part of who we are. And that is true about problems. Because problems are basically, problem for us is just a word, and a word is just a pointer to something else. And what they're pointing to is this tendency, habitual tendency we have as human beings to identify the challenges of our lives as something that should be judged as negative, bad, wrong, shouldn't be. Anything that doesn't make us feel good inside is considered a problem. So in a sense, everything out there is a problem because nothing out there can make us feel good inside. It's not meant to. Life is not meant to make us feel good inside. We're here to experience and serve life. It isn't here to serve us. Yet we have this mental construct as human beings that we are not okay inside. So I need something out there to make me feel okay inside. I need something to go away from my conscious experience so it doesn't make me feel worse inside. So we're always grabbing, clinging, bringing in life events, storing them, and hope that the pleasant ones are something we get to relive again. And then we're pushing away constantly those events that are not pleasant, that are doing the opposite of making us feel good inside. We're averting. And when we push away, we are resisting what life is giving us. And when we resist what life is giving us, those things are not going away. All we're doing is using our hands and our arms of repression and suppression and just pushing everything down inside below that level of conscious awareness. They're still there. They're still raring to go. And then life, of course, doing what life does in this little slice we get to experience, will throw storms in at us. It will throw rainy days in on our wedding days. It will throw in people who are not pleasant to our experience. People who are pleasant, but then it will take them away. It will, give us blessings, and then it will give us challenges, as life does. Because life is just doing what life does for 1,000 million reasons that have nothing to do with this little salty, watery being that we are. And so it will affect our life experience, and we will perceive it and judge it and call it, when it doesn't make us feel good inside, a problem. And it has nothing to do with life. And it has nothing to do with the people that show up in our lives. It is simply what this mind decided to do. It becomes a problematic mind. And we become identified with it and the problems it creates, thinking they're us. If I have no problems, then who am I? Because I am this person that had that experience, I'm this person that had that experience, I'm that person that had that experience. This is what our psyche is, an accumulation of experiences that we've had. Some we stored because they were too painful to process through, so we repressed and suppressed. Others we stored because they were so joyful, we wanted to keep repeating them. They made us feel good inside. Never for long, but for at least a period of time. And so our approach to life is problematic. The problems themselves are nothing. They're just mental constructs and ideas. But our approach to life, if we're just seeing through the lens of problems and focusing in our magnificent consciousness in, narrowing it down beyond this wondrous slice of life we're given to something even tinier, minuscule, and macro shooting it, so that it becomes this grandiose thing that's staring us in the face. It's a part of our lives. The problem isn't that life is doing what it does. The problem is that we have problems. Michael Singer said in the podcast I'll link below, that if you have problems, yes, you have problems. The problem is having problems themselves, not the problems. So they are statistically insignificant in the grand scheme of things. I've also taught my children, when they came to the camera, how to widen their focus, how to pull away from that crap, open up their lens so they can explore what's all around it. And there was usually something beautiful around it. There was grass growing, some flowers, animals possibly, some leaves that had fallen off the tree. There was so much beauty around that thing they were focusing on. And when they pulled their lens away, they could see it. And their photograph changed, and their perspective changed. Their view changed. And we can pull away from these things we call problems. And as we pull away and widen our focus, what we're going to see is how insignificant they are. There's so much beauty in the world, so much magic in this world. And these problems are a part of that magic, or these so-called problems. These events that we have judged as problems are a part of that magic, a part of that experience, a part of that magnificent slice of life that we, as these tiny, salty beings, were given the opportunity to experience. So problems are statistically insignificant because they're not really real. And when you realize that and you begin to pull your own focus away from your problems to have a more wider view of world and this life experience you've been given, you will feel so much more peace. You will have more space between this and what you're looking at. You will have more peace. And that will continue to expand and grow and expand and grow the more you practice that. Practice saying to yourself, instead of hearing it from me or Michael Singer or anybody else, my problems are statistically insignificant. What is happening to me, though there's a ripple effect with everything, is not going to change the rotation of the planets around the sun. It's not going to affect whatever star in another galaxy, billions and billions of light years away. It is statistically insignificant, especially because they're mind-created and not real. This moment right here, this slice of life I've been given, is everything. This is significant. And the fact that I'm here to experience it is significant. The rest isn't. Anyway, that's all I have to say today. I hope that made more sense than the last video I did on this. Please remember that you are not insignificant when someone tells you your problems are. You are not insignificant, and you are not your problems, first of all. You are that which is witnessing and experiencing these so-called problems or these so-called life events that you deem and judge as problematic. And remember, it's your deeming and your judging that makes